January 14th, 2024, 3:47 p.m. Teton Wilderness, Wyoming.
The temperature sat at minus 12 degrees Fahrenheit when Marcus Bennett's search dogs did something they had never done in 8 years of mountain rescue operations. They refused to work. The 3 German shepherds, trained to find human scent in avalanches, collapsed buildings, and dense forest, sat frozen at the mouth of Whispering Cave, their ears pinned flat against their skulls. Low whines vibrated in their throats. Zeus, the team leader who had pulled 4 people from a commercial avalanche last winter, actually backed away from the entrance, his massive body trembling. What the hell? Marcus knelt beside Zeus, checking for injury. Nothing. The dog was healthy, alert, terrified. "Come on, boy, search." Zeus looked at Marcus with eyes that held something Marcus had never seen before. Not confusion, not hesitation, pure, primal fear. Behind Marcus, the rest of Search and Rescue Team 7 stood in a semicircle, their breath forming clouds in the bitter mountain air. 6 days. That's how long the Coleman family had been missing. 6 days since Rachel Coleman, her husband David, and their 7-year-old daughter Emma had failed to return from what was supposed to be a simple afternoon snowshoe hike along the marked trail. 6 days of searching through one of the worst January blizzards Wyoming had seen in 20 years. And now, finally, they had a lead. A ranger had spotted what looked like recent tracks leading toward this cave system, tracks that matched the Coleman's boot sizes, fresh enough that they couldn't be more than 48 hours old. But the dogs wouldn't go in. "Try Athena," suggested Jennifer Park, Marcus's second-in-command. She was 28, ex-Marine, and had ice water in her veins that made her perfect for crisis situations. But even she looked unsettled by the dog's behavior. Marcus brought Athena forward. The younger female usually showed more courage than the males, eager to prove herself. She took 2 steps toward the cave entrance, sniffed the air, and immediately sat down, refused to budge. "This doesn't make sense," Marcus muttered. He'd been running mountain rescue in Wyoming for 15 years. Before that, 10 years with FEMA's urban search and rescue in collapsed buildings after earthquakes. He'd seen dogs work through fire, flood, toxic fumes, and the aftermath of tornadoes. They didn't just refuse to search, not unless something was very, very wrong. The cave mouth yawned before them, roughly 12 feet high and 20 feet wide. Snow had drifted into the entrance, but beyond that first 15 feet, the passage angled downward into darkness that their headlamps couldn't fully penetrate. The geological survey maps showed this cave system extended at least half a mile into the mountain, with multiple chambers and connecting passages. Plenty of places for a family to take shelter from a blizzard. Plenty of places to get lost, injured, or worse. "Marcus," Jennifer's voice was tight, "we need to make a call. Either we go in without the dogs, or we wait for the second team from Jackson to arrive. That's another 4 hours minimum." 4 hours. The Coleman family had already been missing for 144 hours. If they were in that cave, hypothermia could be setting in. Emma was only 7 years old. Children lost body heat faster than adults. 4 more hours could mean the difference between rescue and recovery. Marcus was about to give the order to gear up and enter manually when something moved at the tree line. Everyone saw it at once. A flash of white against the dark pines. "Wolf," breathed Tom Reeves, the team's medic. He was pointing toward the ridge above the cave entrance. The animal stepped into the clearing with a confidence that made Marcus's throat tighten. It was massive, easily 130 pounds, with a pure white coat that seemed to glow against the snow-heavy landscape. Its eyes were the most striking feature, pale blue, almost silver, catching the afternoon light with an intelligence that made Marcus reassess everything he thought he knew about wild animals. Before we go further, if survival stories that prove the extraordinary bonds between humans and nature move you, subscribe to Arctic Wolf Legends. Now, back to what happened next. The white wolf stopped 30 feet from the rescue team. The search dogs didn't bark. didn't growl. They simply watched, silent and submissive, as if recognizing something in this wild creature that commanded respect. The wolf's gaze swept across the humans, assessing, calculating. Then it did something that made Marcus's blood run cold. It looked directly at the cave entrance, then back at Marcus. Deliberate, intentional. "Is that thing trying to communicate?" Jennifer whispered. "Wolves don't do that," Tom said, but his voice lacked conviction. Marcus had spent enough time in the wilderness to know that the line between animal instinct and conscious thought was thinner than most people believed. He'd seen ravens lead hunters to game, seen dolphins guide lost swimmers to shore, seen animals do impossible things when the situation demanded it. This wolf was trying to tell them something. The animal took 3 steps toward the cave, stopped, looked back at the team, waiting. "It wants us to follow it," Marcus heard himself say. "That's insane," Jennifer started, but Marcus was already moving. "Stay with the dogs. Radio for the backup team. If I'm not out in 30 minutes, send everyone in." "Marcus, you can't. Those people have been in there for 6 days, Jen. We're out of time." Marcus pulled his headlamp tighter, checked his radio, and started toward the cave. The white wolf waited until Marcus was within 10 feet, then turned and padded into the darkness. The temperature dropped the moment Marcus crossed the threshold. Not just cold from winter air, but a deep, bone-penetrating chill that felt wrong. The cave walls were limestone, slick with ice. His breath came out in thick plumes. The wolf moved ahead, its white form visible even in the darkness. It paused every 20 feet, making sure Marcus was following. The passage angled downward at a steep grade. Marcus's boots struggled for purchase on the icy stone. His headlamp revealed formations that would be beautiful under different circumstances. Stalactites hung like frozen fangs. The walls narrowed, then widened into a chamber the size of a small house. The wolf stopped at the far end of this chamber. At the entrance to a side passage Marcus's map showed as unstable. That's when Marcus smelled it. Natural gas. Faint but unmistakable. A sulfurous odor that explained everything. The dogs hadn't been afraid of the cave. They'd been reacting to a gas leak, something their sensitive noses had detected immediately. Something toxic, potentially explosive. "Jesus," Marcus breathed, keying his radio. "Jen, we've got a gas situation. Possible natural seep. The dogs were right to refuse entry." Static answered him. The cave walls were blocking transmission. The wolf looked at Marcus, then at the side passage, waiting. If there was natural gas seeping into this cave, the Coleman family could be unconscious. Gas displaces oxygen. They could be dying right now, unaware, their bodies simply shutting down in the dark. But entering a gas-filled enclosed space was suicide. One spark, one ignition source, and the whole cave could become a fireball. Marcus had a decision to make. The kind that separated successful rescuers from dead heroes. The wolf took one step into the side passage, looked back at Marcus with those impossibly intelligent eyes. And Marcus realized something that changed everything. This animal had been in that passage, had come out alive. If the gas concentration was truly lethal, the wolf would be dead, which meant there was a safe path through. Marcus took a breath, offered a silent prayer to whoever might be listening, and followed the white wolf into the side passage. The tunnel was narrow, forcing Marcus to turn sideways in places. The gas smell grew stronger, making his head swim. His training screamed at him to retreat, to call for hazmat equipment, to follow protocol. But protocol didn't account for a family dying in the dark while he waited for proper authorization. The wolf navigated the passage with practiced ease, staying to the left wall, avoiding certain sections entirely. Marcus realized the animal was choosing a specific route, one that kept them in better ventilated areas where the gas concentration was lower. How did it know? The passage opened into another chamber, smaller than the first. Marcus's headlamp swept across the space and stopped. There, in the far corner, 3 shapes huddled together under an emergency blanket, unmoving. "No," Marcus breathed, stumbling forward. The wolf had already reached them. It was sniffing at the smallest shape. Emma. Marcus dropped to his knees beside the family. His hands shook as he checked for pulses. David Coleman. Faint pulse, breathing shallow. Rachel Coleman. Same. Hypothermic but alive. Emma. Marcus's heart stopped. No pulse, no breath. Her small face was blue-tinged. No, no, no. Marcus was already starting CPR, his training overriding his panic. 30 compressions. 2 breaths. 30 compressions. The white wolf watched, silent and still. "Come on, Emma. Come on, sweetheart." 30 compressions. 2 breaths. Behind him he heard voices. The backup team had arrived. Flashlights swept into the chamber. "We've got them!" someone shouted. But Marcus didn't stop. Couldn't stop. 30 compressions. He felt it before he saw it. The slight rise of Emma's chest, the small cough, air moving through lungs that had been still. "She's breathing," Marcus gasped. "Get the oxygen! Move!" The next 30 minutes were organized chaos. The team brought in portable oxygen, thermal blankets, medical equipment. Tom established an IV line in David's arm, while Jennifer worked on Rachel. Emma was breathing on, her own now, but barely conscious. The gas detector confirmed Marcus's suspicion. Carbon monoxide and natural gas levels were dangerous in certain pockets of the cave. The Colemans had sought shelter here after getting lost in the blizzard, unaware they were slowly being poisoned by gases seeping from deep in the mountain. Another few hours, and all 3 would have been dead. "How did you find them?" Jennifer asked Marcus as they prepared to move the family out on stretchers. Marcus looked around for the white wolf, but the animal had vanished. He swept his headlamp across every corner of the chamber, the passages, the shadows. Gone. "The dogs wouldn't go in," Marcus said slowly, still processing what had happened. "But that wolf, it led me straight to them. It knew exactly where they were." "Wolves don't do that," Tom said, but he sounded uncertain. "That one did." The extraction took 2 hours. The Colemans were loaded into the medical helicopter and airlifted to Jackson Hospital. Marcus stood in the snow, watching the helicopter disappear over the ridge, its lights blinking red against the darkening sky. "Marcus!" Jennifer handed him a thermos of coffee. "Command wants a full report on the gas situation. They're talking about closing this cave system entirely." "Good. They should." Marcus sipped the coffee, grateful for the warmth. "And they want to know about the wolf." Marcus turned to look at her. "What about it?" "Some of the team are saying it led you to the family, that it somehow knew they were in there. Command thinks we're making it up to cover for ignoring safety protocols." "Are you saying it didn't happen?" Jennifer was quiet for a moment. "I'm saying I saw it too, and I don't know what to put in my report because it doesn't make any sense." Marcus understood the dilemma. In official documentation, you couldn't write, "Mysterious white wolf led rescuer to victims using unknown communication methods." That sounded insane. But that's exactly what had happened. "Tell them the truth," Marcus said finally. "Let them make of it what they will." That night, back at the ranger station, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept seeing those blue-silver eyes, kept thinking about how deliberately the wolf had moved, how it had looked back to make sure he was following, how it had led him on a specific path through the gas-filled passages. Random chance? Animal instinct? Or something more? Marcus pulled up the wildlife reports for Teton Wilderness on his laptop. Wolves were common enough in the area. Grey wolves had been reintroduced decades ago and now thrived. But white wolves? Those were rare. Arctic genetics occasionally showed up in northern populations, but this far south was unusual. He spent 3 hours searching through databases, ranger reports, wildlife camera footage. Nothing. No records of a white wolf in this area. No tracks except the ones near the cave. It was as if the animal had appeared specifically for this rescue, then vanished. At 3 a.m., Marcus's phone rang. Jackson Hospital. "Mr. Bennett?" This is Dr. Sarah Okonkwo. I'm treating the Coleman family. Marcus sat up, suddenly alert. How are they?
Stable.
All three are going to make it. David and Rachel are conscious and asking to speak with you. And Emma... Well, Emma's been saying something we thought you should hear. What is it? There was a pause. She says a white angel brought you to them. She says it stayed with them in the dark for 6 days, keeping them warm. She says it told her not to be scared. Marcus's hand tightened on the phone. Put her on speaker. A moment later, a small, weak voice came through. Mr. Marcus? Hey, Emma. I'm so glad you're okay. The white wolf was nice. It laid down with us when we were cold. Mommy and Daddy couldn't see it very good because the cave was dark, but I could. It had blue eyes like the sky. Marcus's throat tightened. Did it have a name, Emma? I called it Frost, because it was white like snow. Frost said you would come. It said to wait, to hold on. And then you came, just like Frost promised. After Marcus hung up, he sat in the darkness of his quarters, trying to make sense of what he'd learned. A 7-year-old girl, hypothermic and oxygen-deprived, claiming a wolf had kept her family alive for 6 days. Claiming it had communicated with her. Claimed it had promised rescue. Hallucination? The delirium of a dying child's mind? Or something else entirely? Marcus didn't have answers. But he knew one thing with absolute certainty. That wolf had saved the Coleman family. And Marcus intended to find out why. 3 days after the rescue, Marcus Bennett drove back to Whispering Cave. Officially, he was conducting a follow-up safety assessment. Unofficially, he was looking for answers. The cave entrance looked different in daylight. Less menacing, more like any other geological formation scattered across Wyoming's wilderness. Marcus had brought new equipment this time. Gas detectors, thermal imaging cameras, and something he'd borrowed from a wildlife biologist friend, trail cameras with night vision. If that white wolf was living in this area, Marcus intended to document it. He spent 6 hours setting up 12 cameras in a grid pattern around the cave system. Each camera was motion-activated, weatherproof, capable of capturing both photo and video. He positioned them along game trails, near water sources, in areas where a large predator might travel. When he finished, the sun was setting, painting the snow in shades of orange and purple. Marcus stood at the cave entrance, remembering that moment 6 days ago when his dogs had refused to enter, when a wolf had appeared and changed everything. "Where did you come from?" Marcus asked the empty forest. "And why did you help us?" The wind through the pines was his only answer. Marcus returned to the ranger station just as darkness fell. Jennifer was waiting in his office, her expression tight. "We need to talk," she said, closing the door behind her. "What's wrong?" Jennifer pulled out her tablet, swiped to a news article. This hit the wire 2 hours ago. The headline read, "Mysterious White Wolf Saves Family in Wyoming Cave Rescue." "Damn it," Marcus breathed. "How did the press get this?" Emma Coleman. The hospital staff thought her story was charming, posted it on social media. It went viral. Now we've got reporters calling, wildlife enthusiasts planning expeditions, and... Jennifer paused, her jaw tightening. Trophy hunters. Marcus's blood went cold. What? 3 different groups have already applied for wolf hunting permits in this area. They're calling it the Ghost Wolf of Teton. One hunter is offering $50,000 to whoever brings in a white wolf pelt from this region. The coffee Marcus had been drinking suddenly tasted like ash. They can't do that. The rescue is documented. That wolf saved 3 lives. Legally, there's no protection. It's not a known individual animal. The hunting season is open. As long as they have valid permits and stay within quotas, we can't stop them. Marcus set down his cup carefully, fighting the rage building in his chest. 15 years in search and rescue had taught him that the world wasn't fair, that good things didn't always happen to good people, that sometimes the heroes died while the villains walked free. But this felt different, personal. That wolf had trusted him, had led him through a poisonous cave to save a family, and now humans were coming to kill it for sport. "There has to be something we can do," Marcus said. Jennifer's expression softened. "I've already made calls to Fish and Wildlife. They're considering an emergency designation, but it takes time. Weeks, maybe months. In the meantime..." She didn't need to finish. In the meantime, that wolf was in danger. Marcus grabbed his coat. "I'm going back out there." "Marcus, it's dark, and you're not on duty." "Then I'm going as a private citizen who cares about wildlife conservation." Jennifer caught his arm. "If you interfere with legal hunters, you could lose your job, maybe face charges." Marcus met her eyes. That wolf didn't hesitate when the Coleman family needed help. "I'm not going to hesitate now." He was loading gear into his truck when his phone rang. Unknown number. "Bennett," he answered. "Mr. Bennett, my name is Dr. Catherine Whitfield. I'm a wildlife geneticist with the University of Montana. I saw the news story about the white wolf, and I need to talk to you. It's urgent." Marcus paused, his hand on the truck door. "What about?" "Not over the phone. Can we meet? Tonight, if possible. I'm already driving to Jackson. I can be at the ranger station in 2 hours." Something in her voice made Marcus agree. "I'll be here." Dr. Catherine Whitfield arrived exactly 2 hours later. She was in her late 40s, with steel grey hair pulled back in a practical bun and sharp green eyes that missed nothing. She carried a weathered leather briefcase that looked like it had traveled through every wilderness on Earth. Marcus led her to the conference room. Jennifer joined them, along with Tom Reeves and Park Superintendent James Hawthorne. Catherine didn't waste time. She opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick file folder. 23 years ago, she began, I was part of a research team studying wolf populations in Yellowstone. We were documenting the genetic diversity of the reintroduced packs, tracking breeding pairs, monitoring territory expansion, standard wildlife biology. She laid out a series of photographs, wolves in various poses, some with radio collars, others captured on trail cameras. In the winter of 2001, we encountered something unusual. A lone white wolf, female, approximately 4 years old. She appeared in the Lamar Valley, interacting with established packs, but never joining them. We managed to dart her, take samples, fit a radio collar. Catherine pulled out another photo. A magnificent white wolf with pale blue eyes stared at the camera with unsettling intelligence. Marcus's breath caught. That's her. That's the same wolf. Impossible, Jennifer said. That was 23 years ago. Wolves don't live that long in the wild. Exactly, Catherine agreed. The average wild wolf lives 6 to 8 years. Exceptional individuals might reach 13. But this wolf... She laid out more photos, each dated years apart. 2001, 2005, 2009, 2014, 2018, 2022, all confirmed sightings of a white wolf matching this description. Same distinctive facial markings, same unusual eye color, same behavior patterns. How is that possible? Tom asked. I don't know, Catherine admitted. The genetic samples we took in 2001 showed some anomalies, nothing that made sense at the time. But coupled with these longevity reports, I've spent the last 2 decades trying to track this animal. She appears, intervenes in human-animal interactions, then vanishes. Always in winter. Always during crisis situations. She laid out a timeline. Marcus read through the incidents, his skin prickling. 2003. White wolf led hunters to their companion who'd fallen through ice. Saved his life. 2007. White wolf guided a lost child back to a search party in Glacier National Park. 2011. White wolf stood guard over an injured hiker for 3 days until rescue arrived. 2015. White wolf led firefighters to a family trapped by wildfire. 2019. White wolf found an elderly man with dementia who'd wandered from a care facility. Each time, Catherine continued, the wolf appeared during a crisis. Each time, lives were saved. And each time, the wolf vanished before anyone could track it. The radio collar we placed in 2001 stopped transmitting after 6 months. We never recovered it. "Why are you telling us this?" Superintendent Hawthorne asked. Catherine's expression turned grim. "Because I've spent 23 years studying this animal. I've documented behavior that shouldn't be possible. Intelligence that defies normal wolf cognition. A lifespan that breaks every rule of biology. And I know what will happen if trophy hunters get to her first." She pulled out the final document, a DNA analysis report. The genetic samples we took showed markers I've never seen before, traces of ancient wolf DNA predating modern Canis lupus by thousands of years. This wolf isn't just unusual, Mr. Bennett. She's potentially the last of a bloodline that shouldn't exist anymore. And if she dies, we lose something we might never see again. The room fell silent. Marcus thought about those blue-silver eyes, the deliberate way the wolf had communicated, the intelligence that had led him through poisoned passages to save the Colemans. "What do you need from us?" he asked. "Protection, time, permission to conduct a proper study, and—" Catherine hesitated. "Your help. She trusts you, Mr. Bennett. You followed her into that cave. That's unprecedented. In 23 years of documented interactions, she's never led a human before. She's always been the one following, guiding from behind. But with you, she led. That means something." "What does it mean?" "I don't know yet, but I intend to find out." Superintendent Hawthorne cleared his throat. "Dr. Whitfield, with all due respect, even if everything you're saying is true, I can't grant special protection to one wolf based on unusual DNA and a long lifespan. The hunters have legal permits. Unless Fish and Wildlife issues an emergency designation, which could take months," Catherine interrupted. "Months this wolf doesn't have. The hunting groups are already in the area. I saw 3 trucks at the trailhead when I drove in. They're searching tonight." Marcus stood up. "Then we need to find her first." "Marcus," Hawthorne warned. "I'm not talking about interfering with legal hunting. I'm talking about locating an animal of scientific importance and documenting its presence. If Dr. Whitfield's research is legitimate, this wolf could be crucial to understanding canine evolution, longevity genetics, maybe even intelligence markers. That's grounds for temporary protection while her findings are reviewed." Hawthorne considered this. "How long would you need?" "Give me 48 hours, Catherine said. "If I can get close enough to take fresh DNA samples, photograph her distinctive markings, and document her behavior, I can make a case to Fish and Wildlife that will hold up." "And if the hunters find her first?" No one answered that question. Marcus checked his watch. 9:47 p.m. "The trail cameras I set up today should have captured something by now. We can start there." They took 2 vehicles into the wilderness. Marcus drove his ranger truck with Catherine and Jennifer. Tom and Hawthorne followed in the Park Service SUV. The temperature had dropped to -15 and fresh snow was falling, covering tracks almost as fast as they were made. The drive to the cave took 40 minutes on icy forest roads. When they arrived, Marcus immediately noticed something wrong. Footprints. Fresh boot prints leading toward the cave entrance. Multiple sets. "Hunters," Jennifer breathed. Marcus killed the engine and grabbed his gear. The group moved quietly toward the cave, their headlamps cutting through the falling snow. The boot prints led directly to Marcus's trail camera positions. 3 of the cameras had been smashed. The memory cards were missing. "They knew," Catherine said quietly. "Someone told them about the cameras." "Who?" Tom asked. Marcus had a sinking feeling he knew the answer. In small towns, word traveled fast. Ranger stations weren't immune to loose talk. Someone had mentioned the cameras. Someone who stood to gain from helping hunters find a legendary white wolf. A voice echoed from deeper in the forest. Male, aggressive. "Blood trail leads this way." Marcus's heart rate spiked. They'd shot something. He took off running, ignoring Jennifer's shout to wait. His boots pounded through the snow, following the voices. Behind him, he heard the others scrambling to keep up. The blood trail was obvious, dark red droplets against pristine white, leading deeper into the trees. Marcus burst into a clearing and stopped dead. 3 hunters stood around something on the ground. They had rifles, spotlights, radios, and in the center of their circle, bleeding in the snow, was the white wolf. "Step away from that animal!" Marcus shouted. The hunters spun around. The largest one, a man with a thick beard and cruel eyes, grinned. "This is a legal hunt, Ranger. You got no authority here." Marcus's hand went to his radio. "This animal is under investigation by the University of Montana. Shooting it is interfering with scientific research." "Didn't see no signs saying that," another hunter said. "I'm telling you now, step away." The bearded hunter raised his rifle slightly, not quite pointing it at Marcus, not quite not pointing it either. "We tracked this wolf for 3 days. It's our kill. We got permits. You want to take it from us? You better have more than a fancy title and a radio." Marcus was calculating odds when Catherine Whitfield stepped forward, her phone held high. "I'm streaming this live to the University of Montana's Wildlife Department. Your faces, your permit numbers, and your current violation of Wyoming Statute 23-1-103, which prohibits interference with scientific research on protected study species. That wolf was radio-collared and entered into the federal database 48 hours ago." It was a complete bluff, but the hunters didn't know that. "You're lying," the bearded man said, but uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "Am I?" Catherine showed him her phone screen. "Watch your future as a licensed hunter disappear in real time." For a tense moment, no one moved. Marcus could see the white wolf breathing, shallow and rapid. Blood stained the snow beneath her. She'd been shot in the shoulder. Then Superintendent Hawthorne arrived, flanked by Tom and Jennifer. "Gentlemen, I'm going to need to see those permits, and I'm going to need you to secure those weapons while we verify the legal status of this hunt." The hunters knew when they were outnumbered. Slowly, they complied. Marcus rushed to the wolf's side. She was conscious, her blue eyes tracking his movements. Up close, he could see the entry wound, through and through, possibly missing the major arteries. Painful but survivable with treatment. "Easy, girl," Marcus whispered. "We're going to help you." The wolf's ears flicked toward his voice. She made no move to snap or run, just watched him with those impossibly intelligent eyes. Catherine was already prepping a sedation dart. "We need to transport her immediately. Tom, can you handle emergency wildlife medicine?" "I've treated injured animals before," Tom said, kneeling beside the wolf. "But nothing this large, and wolves are unpredictable when wounded." "She won't hurt you," Marcus heard himself say. "You can't know that." But Marcus did know. Don't ask him how, he just knew. Catherine administered the sedation. Within minutes, the wolf's breathing slowed, her eyes drooping. Marcus carefully lifted her, surprised by how light she felt despite her size. Maybe 110 pounds instead of the 130 he'd estimated. They loaded her into the back of Marcus's truck, wrapping her in thermal blankets. Catherine monitored her vitals while Tom prepped a portable IV. Behind them, the hunters were being questioned by Hawthorne. Marcus heard angry voices, threats of lawsuits, demands to see documentation. But for now, they'd bought time. The drive to the ranger station felt endless. Marcus watched in the rearview mirror as Catherine worked, stopping the bleeding, stabilizing the wolf's condition. She worked with the depth and efficiency of someone who'd done this 100 times before. "Her heart rate is stronger than it should be," Catherine muttered. "She's healing faster than normal. Look at the wound." Marcus glanced back. The bleeding had already slowed significantly. The edges of the wound looked less ragged, as if the tissue was already beginning to repair itself. "That's not possible," Tom said. "Nothing about this wolf is possible," Catherine replied. "That's what makes her so important." They set up a temporary recovery area in the ranger station's secure storage room. Catherine had called ahead to a veterinarian who specialized in exotic animals. Dr. Patricia Wu arrived within an hour, taking over the wolf's medical care. Marcus stood in the observation area, watching through the one-way glass as Dr. Wu examined the sedated wolf. Catherine stood beside him, making notes. "The hunters will be back," Marcus said quietly, "with lawyers, better documentation. They'll claim we interfered with a legal hunt." "Probably," Catherine agreed, "but by then I'll have the evidence I need to push for emergency protection. Look," she showed Marcus her tablet. The DNA sequencer had already processed preliminary results from the blood samples they'd collected. "These markers here," Catherine pointed to highlighted sections. "This is ancient wolf DNA, pre-domestication, possibly 15,000 years old. It shouldn't exist in a living animal. And these sequences," she scrolled to another section, "these correspond to genes associated with enhanced healing, extended cellular longevity, and, this is the crazy part, enhanced neural connectivity. In English, this wolf is genetically designed to live longer, heal faster, and think more complexly than any normal wolf. The question is whether this is a natural mutation or..." She paused. "Or what? Or something else. Something we don't have a framework to understand yet." Through the glass, the white wolf stirred. Her eyes opened still, slightly unfocused from sedation. Dr. Wu was suturing the shoulder wound with practiced precision. The wolf's gaze found Marcus through the one-way glass. Even sedated, even wounded, there was recognition in those eyes. And something else. A message Marcus couldn't quite interpret. "Thank you? Trust? Warning?" "She knows you're there," Catherine observed. "Wolves don't typically recognize humans through one-way glass. The reflection should confuse them, but she's looking right at you." Marcus pressed his hand against the glass. "I'm here," he said softly. "You saved the Colemans. Now we're going to save you." The wolf's tail moved slightly, a single wag. And despite everything, the danger, the impossibility, the questions without answers, Marcus smiled, because in that moment he understood something fundamental about this animal. She wasn't just a wolf, she was a bridge between human and wild, a reminder that intelligence, compassion, and courage weren't limited to one species. She was proof that the boundaries we drew between us and them were artificial. That connection could exist across the vast divide of different biologies if both sides were willing to see past fear. The question was whether the rest of humanity would see that before it was too late. The white wolf recovered faster than any animal Dr. Patricia Wu had ever treated. 72 hours after surgery, the gunshot wound was already showing signs of advanced healing. The tissue was knitting together at a rate Wu described as medically impossible. "I've seen accelerated healing in young, healthy animals," Wu told Marcus as they stood outside the recovery room. "But this is different. The cellular regeneration is happening at maybe 3 times normal speed. If I didn't know better, I'd think someone was giving her experimental growth hormones." "But you're not," Marcus said. "No, whatever's causing this is internal, natural, or..." Wu hesitated. "As natural as a wolf with 15,000-year-old DNA can be." Catherine Whitfield had been practically living at the ranger station, running tests and documenting everything. Her preliminary findings had been enough to convince Fish and Wildlife to issue a temporary 30-day protection order while they investigated further. The hunters had filed appeals, hired lawyers, and were making noise on social media about government overreach. But for now, the white wolf was safe. Marcus visited her every day. At first, he told himself it was just to check on her recovery. But the truth went deeper. He felt connected to this animal in a way that defied logic. Every time he entered the room, her eyes would find his immediately. Every time he spoke, her ears would prick forward, attentive and focused. On the 4th day, Dr. Wu cleared the wolf to move to a larger outdoor enclosure they'd set up behind the ranger station. It was temporary, secure, and gave her room to move while she finished healing. Marcus was there when they transferred her. The moment the cage door opened into the enclosure, the wolf stepped out carefully, testing her injured shoulder. She took 3 steps, paused, then looked directly at Marcus. "Go ahead," Marcus said. It's safe. The wolf tilted her head slightly, as if considering his words. Then she moved forward with more confidence, exploring the enclosure. She investigated every corner, every fence line, mapping her temporary territory with methodical precision. Catherine filmed everything. Look at that behavior. She's not panicking, not testing the fence for weak points like a wild animal would. She's assessing, understanding the situation, adapting to it. Maybe she knows we're trying to help, Marcus suggested. Maybe. Or maybe she's intelligent enough to recognize when cooperation serves her better than resistance. That evening, Marcus stayed late, sitting outside the enclosure on a bench that gave him a clear view. The wolf had settled in the far corner, watching the tree line. The sun was setting, painting everything in shades of amber and gold. Marcus pulled out his phone, scrolling through messages. Emma Coleman's mother had sent an update. Emma was home from the hospital, recovering well, and still talking about Frost, the angel wolf. She'd drawn pictures, sent them via email. Marcus opened the attachments. Crayon drawings of a white wolf with blue eyes. In every picture, the wolf was protecting something. In one, the wolf stood between Emma and darkness. In another, the wolf was surrounded by light. A child's interpretation of trauma, Marcus thought. The mind creating guardian figures to cope with fear. Except Emma's guardian had been real. "Mr. Bennett?" Marcus turned. A woman stood at the fence line, late 20s, expensive outdoor gear that screamed city money, trying to look wilderness authentic. She had a camera bag over her shoulder and the eager expression of someone who thought they were about to get a great story. "Can I help you?" Marcus kept his tone.
Professional, but cool.
"I'm Ashley Morgan, freelance journalist with National Geographic. I'm doing a piece on unusual animal behavior and I heard about your white wolf. I'd love to get some photos, maybe an interview." "No." Ashley blinked. "I'm sorry?" "This animal is under medical care and scientific study. No interviews, no photos. The information will be released through proper channels when the research is complete." "But the public has a right to know." "The public has a right to accurate information from qualified sources, not speculation from journalists looking for clickbait." Marcus stood up. "You need to leave the premises." Ashley's friendly demeanor cracked slightly. "I've already spoken to several locals who say this wolf has supernatural abilities, that it's been seen in this area for over 20 years without aging, that it appears during disasters and saves lives. That's not speculation, Mr. Bennett. That's documented pattern." "Documented by who?" "Social media. Posts? Campfire stories?" "By Dr. Catherine Whitfield's research, which I've obtained copies of through a Freedom of Information Act request." Marcus's jaw tightened. FOIA requests were legal, but they took time to process. Either Ashley had connections, or she'd been planning this story long before the Coleman rescue. "Dr. Whitfield's research is ongoing and hasn't been peer-reviewed," Marcus said carefully. "Anything you publish now would be premature and potentially damaging to a legitimate scientific study. Or it could save this wolf's life by making her famous enough that killing her becomes politically impossible." Ashley stepped closer to the fence. "Look, I know you care about this animal. I do too. That's why I want to tell her story, the right way, with respect." Before Marcus could respond, the white wolf stood up. She moved to the fence line, positioning herself between Marcus and Ashley. Not aggressively, just present. Ashley raised her camera instinctively. "Don't," Marcus warned, but the photo was already taken, flash bright in the gathering dusk. The wolf didn't react to the flash. She simply stared at Ashley with those blue eyes, and something in that gaze made the journalist lower her camera. "She's protecting you," Ashley whispered. "From me." "You need to leave," Marcus repeated. Ashley nodded slowly, backing away. But Marcus saw the calculation in her eyes. She had her photo. She had her angle. Within 24 hours, this would be a national story. And once it went national, everything would change. Marcus was right. By morning, Ashley Morgan's article was trending on 3 different news platforms. The ghost wolf of Wyoming, mysterious white wolf with ancient DNA, saves lives and defies science. The article was actually well written, balanced, and cited Catherine's research appropriately. But it didn't matter. The headline was all people needed. By noon, the ranger station parking lot was full of news vans. By evening, there
were protesters.
2 groups, actually. Wildlife advocates demanding permanent protection for the wolf, and hunters' rights groups claiming government conspiracy and demanding the wolf be classified as available game. Superintendent Hawthorne called an emergency meeting. "This is untenable," he said, pacing his office, while Marcus, Jennifer, Catherine, and Tom watched. "We have reporters trying to bribe rangers for access. We have trespassers attempting to reach the enclosure. We have death threats against both the wolf and Dr. Whitfield, and Fish and Wildlife is pressuring us to either transfer the animal to a facility with proper security or release it back into the wild." "She's not ready to be released," Dr. Wu said via speakerphone. "The wound is healing remarkably well, but she needs at least another week of monitoring. And transferring her would be disastrous for my research," Catherine added. "I'm on the verge of a breakthrough with the DNA analysis. I need more time with her."
In a controlled environment.
"Time we don't have," Hawthorne said bluntly. "The 30-day protection order expires in 3 weeks. After that, unless we can prove she's a unique subspecies requiring endangered status, she goes back to being legal game. And with this media circus, every hunter in the country will be coming here to claim the ghost wolf as a trophy." Marcus had been quiet during this exchange. Now he spoke. "What if we don't wait for the protection order to expire?" Everyone turned to look at him. "What if we relocate her now, tonight, before the media catches wind, somewhere remote, somewhere she can disappear again like she's done for the past 20 years. "That's illegal," Hawthorne said. "The protection order specifies she remains at this facility for observation. The protection order says she can't be hunted. It doesn't specify exact location." Marcus pulled out a map. "The Teton Wilderness has thousands of acres of backcountry, places so remote that even experienced hunters rarely go. We could release her there with a GPS collar. Catherine could continue tracking her remotely. And the wolf gets to be wild again, while still being monitored." "It's risky," Catherine said slowly. But Marcus could see the wheels turning in her mind. "But it might work. If we can document her behavior in a true wild setting, integrate her collar data with my genetic findings, we'd have an even stronger case for permanent protection." "And if something happens to her out there?" Tom asked. "If she gets injured again, or trapped, or killed by another predator?" Marcus looked at the map, thinking about those blue eyes, that impossible intelligence. "She's survived for over 20 years on her own. I think she knows how to handle wilderness better than any of us." The decision was made. They would relocate the wolf under cover of darkness, using a route that avoided main roads and media attention. Only essential personnel would know the exact drop-off
Location.
The GPS collar would transmit her location to a secure server that only Catherine could access. It wasn't perfect, but it was the best option they had. Marcus volunteered to handle the actual relocation. Jennifer argued that it should be a full team, but Marcus insisted. Fewer people meant less chance of leaks. And, honestly, he wanted this time with the wolf. One last chance to understand what she was, what she meant. They tranquilized her at midnight. Dr. Wu administered a mild sedative, just enough to keep her calm during transport, but not enough to fully knock her out. Marcus carried her to his truck, wrapped in blankets, her breathing slow and steady. The drive took 3 hours. Marcus took fire roads and game trails, navigating by moonlight and GPS. He talked to her the whole way. Told her about the Coleman family, how Emma was doing. Told her about the media circus, the hunters, the threat she faced. "I don't know if you understand me," Marcus said as the truck bounced
Over rough terrain.
"I don't know if you're just a very smart wolf or something more." But you saved 3 lives, and that matters. That means something. The wolf's eyes were open, watching him in the rearview mirror, calm, attentive. Marcus reached the drop-off point at 3:47 a.m. He'd chosen a high valley, protected on 3 sides by mountain ridges with access to water and game. Remote enough that humans rarely visited, wild enough that a wolf could thrive. He carried her out of the truck, walking 100 yards from the vehicle before setting her gently in the snow. The GPS collar was secure around her neck, lightweight and unobtrusive. It would transmit her location every 6 hours, allowing Catherine to track movement patterns without constant interference. Marcus sat down beside the wolf, waiting for the sedative to wear off. Above them, stars wheeled in magnificent silence. No city lights out here, just wilderness and sky and cold, clean air. You know what the hardest part of
My job is? Marcus asked the wolf.
It's not the danger, not the long hours or the bureaucracy. It's the helplessness, knowing that sometimes, no matter how hard you try, people die, people suffer, and you can't save everyone. The wolf's breathing was becoming more regular. She was waking up. But then you show up, and you do the impossible. You lead me to that family. You trust me to follow you into darkness. And for the first time in years, I feel like maybe the universe isn't completely random. Maybe there's some pattern to it, some meaning. The wolf's head moved slightly. Her eyes focused on Marcus with full awareness now. "I'm going to make you a promise," Marcus said. "I'm going to protect you, however I can, for as long as I can, because what you did matters, and the world needs more of whatever you are." The wolf stood up, testing her legs. The sedative had fully worn off. She could run, could disappear into the forest and never be seen again. Instead, she stepped closer to
Marcus touched her nose to his hand.
The gesture was so deliberate, so clearly communicative, that Marcus felt his throat tighten. "You're welcome," he whispered. The wolf held his gaze for a long moment. Then she turned and walked toward the tree line. She paused at the edge, looked back once, and vanished into the shadows. Marcus sat in the snow for another hour, just listening to the forest. Somewhere in the distance he heard a howl, clear and strong and wild. Saying goodbye? Or saying thank you? Maybe both. When Marcus returned to the ranger station at dawn, the media circus had intensified. 3 times as many news vans, twice as many protesters, and standing at the entrance to Hawthorne's office, looking furious, was a man in an expensive suit. "Mr. Bennett," the man said coldly, "I'm Richard Thornton, attorney for the Wyoming Hunters Association. I have a court order demanding immediate access to the wolf known as the ghost wolf for independent veterinary assessment." "Where is
The animal?
Marcus looked at Hawthorne, who gave a tiny nod. "The wolf was relocated last night to an undisclosed location in accordance with the protection order's provisions for animal welfare," Marcus said calmly. Thornton's face went red. "That's obstruction of justice. That animal is evidence in an ongoing legal dispute. You had no right." "We had every right," Catherine Whitfield interrupted, stepping into the hallway with a thick folder. "The protection order grants us full authority to make decisions in the animal's best interest. Given the security concerns, death threats, and potential for harm from unauthorized human contact, relocation was the safest option." "I'll have your credentials revoked," Thornton snarled. "Both of you. This is a clear abuse of power to protect an animal that should be classified as legal game." "Then I guess we'll see you in court," Catherine said pleasantly. "In the meantime, the wolf is safe, healthy, and being monitored remotely, which is
All that matters."
Thornton stormed out, already on his phone calling someone, probably multiple someones. Hawthorne closed his office door. "That's going to come back on us." "Let it," Marcus said. "We bought her time. That's what counts." Over the next week, the legal battle intensified. The Hunters Association filed multiple lawsuits. Wildlife advocates counterfiled. The story went national, then international. Everyone had an opinion about the ghost wolf. But out in the wilderness, the wolf herself was thriving. Catherine's GPS data showed healthy movement patterns. The wolf was hunting successfully, establishing territory, behaving exactly like a wild animal should. Except for one anomaly. Every 3 days, the wolf returned to a specific location, a ridge overlooking the valley where Marcus had released her, and she stayed there for exactly 1 hour before moving on. "It's like she's checking in," Catherine said, showing Marcus the tracking data. "Waiting. But for what?" Marcus studied the topographical map. The ridge had clear sightlines in multiple directions. You could see for miles from up there, see threats approaching, see opportunities, or see if someone was coming back. "She's watching," Marcus said quietly, "making sure we're keeping our promise." Catherine looked at him. "You really think she's that intelligent? That she understands concepts like promises and trust?" "I think she's been proving she's that intelligent for 23 years. We're just finally paying attention." On day 9, everything changed. Marcus was in his office, reviewing incident reports, when his phone rang. Catherine. Her voice was tight with urgency. "Marcus, I'm seeing something on the GPS I don't understand. The wolf is moving fast, really fast, and she's heading toward... Oh God." "What? Where is she heading?" "Toward Granite Peak. There's a group of backcountry skiers who got caught in an avalanche this morning. Search and rescue was deployed 2 hours ago." "Marcus, the wolf is heading directly toward the avalanche site." Marcus's blood went cold. "She knows. Somehow she knows people are in trouble." "That's impossible. She's 15 miles away from the avalanche. There's no way she could hear it, or smell it, or sense it through any normal means." "Then maybe her means aren't normal." Marcus grabbed his gear. "I'm going up there." "Marcus, the avalanche zone is unstable. More slides are expected. It's too dangerous." "Then it's a good thing I've got experience following wolves into dangerous places." He assembled a small team: Jennifer, Tom, and 2 other rangers experienced in avalanche rescue. They took snowmobiles as far as they could, then switched to skis and climbing gear for the final approach. The avalanche site was chaos. A wall of snow and ice had swept down the mountain, burying everything in its path. The official search and rescue team had already been working for 3 hours, probing the debris field with specialized equipment. Marcus checked his GPS tracker. The wolf was close, less than half a mile away and still approaching. "There," Jennifer pointed, a flash of white moving through the trees. The wolf emerged at the edge of the debris field, her movements careful and deliberate. She paused, sniffing the air, then began walking across the unstable snow. "Someone stop that wolf before it triggers another slide," one of the rescue coordinators shouted. "Wait," Marcus said. "Just wait." The wolf was doing something specific. Not random searching. She was following a pattern, pausing every 20 feet, her nose pressed to the snow, testing, analyzing. Then she stopped at a seemingly random point in the debris field and began to dig. "She's got something," Tom breathed. The rescue team mobilized, bringing their equipment to the spot where the wolf was digging. Their probes confirmed it. Someone was buried there, 8 feet down. They worked frantically, racing against time and oxygen deprivation. The wolf stepped back, watching, as humans took over the rescue she'd initiated. 20 minutes later, they pulled out a young woman, unconscious but alive. Her personal locator beacon had malfunctioned, which is why the rescue team hadn't found her yet. Without the wolf, she would have died. The rescue coordinator, a grizzled veteran named Mike Rodriguez, stared at the white wolf with undisguised awe. "In 30 years of avalanche rescue, I've never seen anything like that. She pinpointed that victim faster than our equipment." "How is that possible?" someone asked. No one had an answer. The wolf stayed until all the victims were accounted for. 3 people pulled from the snow, all alive. All because a white wolf had somehow known they needed help and had traveled 15 miles through mountain wilderness to find them. Then, as the medical helicopters arrived to transport the victims, the wolf turned and walked back into the forest, vanishing like smoke. Marcus watched her go, his mind reeling. This wasn't just intelligence. This wasn't just enhanced senses or lucky timing. This was something else. Something that defied every rule of biology and physics he understood. The wolf knew when people were in danger, knew where to find them, knew how to help. And she chose to help every single time. Back at the ranger station, the avalanche rescue made headlines. The media frenzy reached new heights, but this time the story was different. This time, instead of speculation and debate, there was documented proof of the wolf's abilities. 47 minutes of video footage showing the wolf locating an avalanche victim. Testimony from a dozen experienced rescue personnel. Medical records confirming that without the wolf's intervention, the victim would have died. The hunters suddenly got very quiet. Catherine's phone didn't stop ringing. Universities wanted to study the wolf. Documentary crews wanted to film her. Conservation groups wanted to make her the face of wildlife protection. But Catherine's focus was on the DNA results. The final comprehensive analysis had just come back, and what she found changed everything. She called Marcus to her makeshift lab at midnight. "I need you to see this," she said, pulling up genetic sequences on her computer. "And I need you to promise you won't think I'm crazy." After everything we've seen, Catherine, I'm past thinking anything is crazy. She took a deep breath. This wolf isn't just carrying ancient DNA markers. She's carrying genetic sequences that shouldn't exist in nature. Sequences that look engineered. Marcus leaned closer to the screen. "What do you mean, engineered?" "I mean someone or something modified this wolf's genetics. Thousands of years ago, based on the degradation patterns. Enhanced healing, extended lifespan, heightened cognitive function. And this," she pointed to a specific sequence. "This is the part that terrifies me. This sequence is associated with electromagnetic sensitivity, the ability to sense electrical fields in the Earth's crust, which would explain how she knows when avalanches happen," Marcus finished, "how she senses disasters before they occur. Not just senses, detects, like a living early warning system." Catherine sat back. "Marcus, whoever created this bloodline, they designed these wolves to be guardians, protectors, a bridge between human civilization and wild nature. And our wolf might be the last one left." The implications crashed over Marcus like a wave. Who would do that? Who even could? "I don't know. Ancient civilizations we've lost record of. Some advanced culture that existed before recorded history. Or," she hesitated, "or maybe something we don't have a framework to understand yet." Before Marcus could respond, alarms started blaring. Jennifer burst into the lab. "We've got multiple trespassers approaching the old enclosure site, armed, moving fast." Marcus's stomach dropped. The hunters. They think she's still there. They reached the enclosure in minutes. Searchlights swept through the trees. Voices shouted commands. And in the center of it all, 4 men with rifles, searching for a wolf that wasn't there. The bearded hunter from before, the one who'd shot her, was leading the group. "This is private property," Marcus shouted. "You're all trespassing." "Where's the wolf?" the hunter demanded. "We know she was here. We have witnesses who saw her in this enclosure." "The wolf was relocated for her own protection." "Illegal relocation. We filed motions. You violated court orders." "No court order was in effect at the time of relocation," Catherine said, stepping forward. "And even if it was, the safety of an animal under scientific study takes precedence over hunting permits." The hunter's face twisted with rage. "You people think you're so much better than us, so enlightened. But that's just a wolf, an animal. It doesn't matter how smart it is or how many people it saves. It's still just a predator that needs to be managed." "That predator has saved 8 lives in the past month alone," Marcus said quietly. "How many lives have you saved?" The hunter raised his rifle. Not at Marcus, at the enclosure. "Tell us where she is, or we start making this official. Press charges, get you all fired, and then we find her anyway." Marcus was about to respond when a howl split the night. Everyone froze. The howl came again, closer, from the direction of the forest behind the hunter. And then the white wolf stepped into the clearing. She was magnificent in the moonlight, fully healed, strong, wild, her blue eyes fixed on the hunters with an intensity that made even armed men take a step back. "There she is," the bearded hunter whispered, raising his rifle. "Don't," Marcus said. "She's protected." "Not anymore. The protection order expired at midnight. It's 12:47 a.m. She's legal game." Marcus's heart stopped. He'd lost track of the dates. The 30 days were up. Catherine's research hadn't been completed in time. The emergency designation had failed to materialize. The wolf was unprotected. The hunter's finger moved to the trigger, and the wolf did something that no one expected. She sat down, calmly, deliberately, staring directly at the hunter. Not fleeing, not attacking, just waiting, daring him to shoot. The hunter's hand began to shake. "She's not afraid of you," Catherine said softly. "She knows exactly what you are, what you intend to do, and she's choosing to face it with dignity rather than run." "Shut up," the hunter snarled, but his rifle wavered. "You want to be known as the man who killed the ghost wolf?" Marcus asked. "After she saved those people from the avalanche? After the whole world has seen what she can do? That's the legacy you want?" The hunter's jaw clenched. "It's my right. I have permits." "You have paperwork," Catherine corrected. "Rights are something different, something earned." The moment stretched like breaking glass. Then, from the forest, more movement, more shapes. 5 grey wolves emerged from the trees. A pack. They arranged themselves in a semicircle behind the white wolf, unified and protective. The hunters weren't facing one wolf anymore. They were facing 6. "Jesus Christ," one of the other hunters whispered. "I didn't sign up
For this. The bearded hunter looked at his companions, saw the fear in their faces, and knew he'd lost. He lowered his rifle slowly. "This isn't over." "Yes," Marcus said firmly. "It is." The hunters retreated to their vehicles. Within minutes, they were gone. Marcus turned to thank the wolf, to say something, anything, but she had already vanished back into the forest. The grey wolves followed, melting into shadows, and Marcus was left standing in an empty clearing, wondering what he'd just witnessed. Not just a wolf defending herself, but a pack choosing to protect one of their own. Even though the white wolf wasn't technically part of their pack, or maybe she was. Maybe pack wasn't about blood or territory. Maybe it was about something deeper, about recognizing worth, about protecting what mattered, about choosing to stand together when the world said you should stand apart. The next morning, Marcus woke to find his office flooded with emails. Thousands of them. Messages from
wildlife advocates, conservation groups, scientists, and ordinary people who'd followed the ghost wolf story. But one email stood out. It was from the Director of Fish and Wildlife Services in Washington, D.C. Subject line, "Emergency designation approved." Marcus's hands shook as he opened it. After reviewing Dr. Catherine Whitfield's comprehensive genetic analysis and the documented evidence of unique behavioral patterns, the United States Fish and Wildlife Service is granting Emergency Endangered Species Act protection to the individual wolf known as the ghost wolf and any direct genetic descendants. Effective immediately, this animal is classified as a genetically distinct individual of scientific importance. Any harm to this animal will be prosecuted as a federal crime, with penalties up to $250,000 and 5 years imprisonment. Marcus read the email 3 times to make sure it was real. They'd won. The wolf was protected, not just for 30 days, permanently. He called
Catherine immediately.
She answered on the first ring, her voice thick with emotion. "You saw the email?" "I saw it," Marcus said. "Catherine, you did it. Your research saved her." "We did it, all of us." "But Marcus," her voice caught, "there's more. The GPS data from last night. After the confrontation with the hunters, The wolf didn't go back to her usual territory. Where did she go? She went to the Coleman family's house. She's been sitting in their backyard for the past 6 hours, just waiting. Marcus grabbed his keys. I'm heading there now. The Coleman house sat on 5 acres outside of Jackson, a modest ranch-style home with a large fenced yard that backed onto forest. Marcus pulled up to find Rachel Coleman standing on her back porch, tears streaming down her face, staring at the white wolf lying calmly in the snow 30 feet away. "Mr. Bennett," Rachel said when she saw him. "I don't understand. Emma woke up this morning and said Frost was here. I thought she was
Dreaming, but
Where's Emma now?" "Inside, with David. We didn't know if we should call you or animal control or—" "Can I see her? Emma?" Rachel nodded, leading Marcus inside. Emma Coleman sat at the kitchen table, drawing with crayons. She looked up when Marcus entered, her face brightening. "Mr. Marcus, Frost came to visit." Marcus knelt beside her chair. "I saw her in your yard. Did she tell you why she came?" Emma nodded seriously. "She came to say thank you, and to say goodbye. She has to go away for a while because she has something important to do, but she wanted me to know she'll always watch over us." David Coleman stood in the doorway, his expression troubled. "Mr. Bennett, Emma's been saying things like this since the hospital. The doctors said it's a coping mechanism, her mind creating narratives to process the trauma." "Or," Marcus said gently, "maybe she really does understand something we don't." He went back outside. The wolf was still there, watching the house. When Marcus approached, she stood up. "You came to say goodbye to Emma," Marcus said. It wasn't a question. The wolf's ears swiveled toward him. Then she did something remarkable. She walked to the porch, placed something on the bottom step, and backed away. Marcus moved closer. It was a piece of leather. No, not leather, the remnants of a radio collar. The collar Catherine had placed on her 23 years ago. Weathered, broken, but unmistakably the same design. "You kept this," Marcus whispered. "All these years. Why?" The wolf looked at him with those blue eyes, and Marcus suddenly understood. The collar was proof of who she was, proof of the time that had passed, proof that she'd been watching, protecting, for longer than any normal wolf should live. She was leaving it behind because she didn't need it anymore, because humans finally understood what she was. The wolf turned and walked toward the tree line, but she paused at the edge, looking back one more time. Not at Marcus, at the house, at Emma's bedroom window where the little girl had her face pressed to the glass, one small hand raised in farewell. The wolf's tail wagged once, gentle, deliberate. Then she was gone. Marcus picked up the old collar, his throat tight with emotion he couldn't name. Behind him, Rachel Coleman's voice was soft. "Will we see her again?" "I don't know," Marcus admitted, "but I think that wherever she goes, whatever she does, she'll remember. And if you ever need her, somehow, I think she'll know." 3 weeks passed. The media frenzy died down. The hunters stopped their legal challenges after a federal prosecutor made it very clear what would happen if they continued. The ghost wolf faded from headlines, becoming just another unusual wildlife story in a world full of unusual wildlife stories. But Catherine's research continued, and what she discovered was even more remarkable than the initial findings. She called Marcus to the university lab in late February. Snow was falling outside, but inside, Catherine's workspace was warm and cluttered with papers, computers, and scientific equipment. "I've been analyzing the grey wolves who appeared that night," Catherine said, pulling up genetic data. "The ones who stood with the white wolf against the hunters. I managed to get DNA samples from hair they left behind. And they're her children, all 5 of them. Different litters from different years, but all sharing her unique genetic markers. Marcus, she's been breeding, passing down those enhanced traits, creating a new generation of wolves with her abilities." Marcus stared at the data. How many generations? Based on the age analysis? At least 4, possibly 5. She's been doing this for decades, quietly, carefully. building a population of wolves who carry that ancient DNA, who might develop the same intelligence, the same longevity, the same... Catherine paused. The same calling to protect. Where are they now? Scattered across Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho, living normal wolf lives. But the genetic markers are there, dormant, waiting. And if the genes express the way I think they will, in another generation or two, we might have dozens of wolves with the ghost wolf's abilities.
Marcus thought about implications that staggered the mind. A whole population of guardian wolves, watching over wilderness and humans alike, a bridge between two worlds that had been separate for too long. What do we do with this information, he asked. We protect it, Catherine said firmly. We document it quietly. We make sure these wolves are never targeted, but we don't publicize it. Because the moment people know there are more wolves like her, they become targets, or worse, commodities. Agreed. They sat in silence for a moment, processing the magnitude of what they'd discovered. Marcus, Catherine said quietly, in all my years studying wolves, I've never believed in anything beyond what science could explain. But this wolf, she's changed how I see the world. Made me wonder if maybe there are things operating on levels we don't have instruments to measure yet. Like what? Like purpose, like destiny, like maybe some creatures are put on this earth for specific reasons, to teach us, to protect us, to remind us that we're not separate from nature, we're part of it. Marcus thought about the wolf leading him through the cave, about her returning to say goodbye to Emma, about the way she'd looked at him with understanding that transcended species. I think you're right, he said. Spring came to Wyoming with the usual fanfare of melting snow and budding trees. Marcus had returned to his regular duties, but he checked the GPS data every day. The white wolf had traveled north into Montana, establishing territory in an even more remote area of wilderness. She was thriving. The data showed successful hunts, healthy movement patterns, all the signs of a wolf living exactly as nature intended. But Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that their story wasn't finished yet. He was proven right in late March. Jennifer burst into his office, her face flushed with excitement. You need to see this, now. She pulled up live footage from a wildlife camera Catherine had, placed along the wolf's migration route. The timestamp showed it was from that morning. The white wolf walked into frame, but she wasn't alone. 4 puppies tumbled around her feet, tiny balls of fur, playing and wrestling with each other. 3 were dark grey like normal wolf pups. 1 was pure white. Oh my God, Marcus breathed. She had pups, Jennifer said, and one of them has her colouring. Marcus, the bloodline is continuing, right now, right in front of us. Marcus watched the footage, his heart swelling with an emotion he couldn't name. Pride? Hope? Joy? All of the above. The white wolf looked directly at the camera, as if she knew they were watching, as if she wanted them to see, wanted them to know that her legacy was secure. Then she led her pups away from the camera, back into the forest, disappearing into a future that held more questions than answers, but also more hope than Marcus had felt in years. The news of the puppies stayed contained. Catherine, Marcus, and a small team of trusted researchers monitored the family remotely, documenting everything but publicizing nothing. The world didn't need to know yet, maybe never. Some miracles were better left protected. Summer arrived. Marcus took some vacation time, his first in 3 years. He planned to spend it hiking, clearing his head, processing everything that had happened. On the 3rd day of his vacation, he found himself back at Whispering Cave. Not the main entrance where everything had started, but a smaller cave system 2 miles north that the maps showed as unexplored. Curiosity pulled him inside. The passage was narrow but stable. His headlamp revealed beautiful rock formations. He explored carefully, documenting what he found for future geological surveys. That's when he saw them. Drawings on the cave wall, ancient pictographs. Not just any drawings, images of white wolves standing beside human figures, protecting them, guiding them. The artwork was thousands of years old, preserved in this dry cave environment. And beneath the drawings, symbols.
a language Marcus didn't recognize. But one image was unmistakable. A white wolf with blue eyes, surrounded by light, standing at the entrance to a cave, leading someone to safety. The same thing the ghost wolf had done for Marcus. This had happened before, thousands of years ago. The bond between these special wolves and humans wasn't new. It was ancient, cyclical, repeating through history whenever both species needed it most. Marcus took hundreds of photographs, documented everything, called Catherine with shaking hands. "We need to preserve this site," he told her. "This proves it, proves that what we experienced isn't unique. It's part of a pattern that's been repeating for millennia." "Marcus, this is incredible. This changes everything we know about human-wolf relationships, about coevolution, about the fact that we're not the only intelligent species on this planet," Marcus finished. "And maybe we never were." The summer of 2024 would later be remembered as the turning point in human-wolf relations. Catherine's research, combined with Marcus's cave discovery, sparked a revolution in how wildlife biologists thought about animal cognition and interspecies communication. But for Marcus, the real change was personal. He'd spent his entire adult life in service, military service, search and rescue service, always putting himself between danger and innocent people, always carrying the weight of those he couldn't save. The ghost wolf had taught him something different, that protection wasn't about carrying weight alone, it was about building bridges, creating connections, trusting that others, even others of different species, could share the burden. That healing happened when you stopped trying to be a fortress and allowed yourself to be part of a pack. On a crisp October evening, Marcus received a call from Rachel Coleman. "Mr. Bennett, I hope I'm not bothering you, but something
Happened today, and I thought you should know."
"What is it?" Emma was playing in the backyard when a wolf appeared, a young white wolf, smaller than Frost but with the same coloring, the same blue eyes. It came right up to the fence, and Emma, Rachel's voice caught. Emma started talking to it, like they were having a conversation. The wolf stayed for almost an hour, then it left something on our porch and disappeared. Marcus's pulse quickened. What did it leave? A wolf cub, tiny, maybe 4 weeks old, white fur, blue eyes. "Mr. Bennett, I think Frost sent us one of her grandchildren." Marcus drove to the Coleman house immediately. The wolf cub was curled up in a blanket, sleeping peacefully. Emma sat beside the makeshift bed, humming softly. "Frost wants us to protect her," Emma said when Marcus arrived. "She said her name is Hope, and she's special like Frost, but she needs a family to keep her safe until she's big enough to be wild." David Coleman looked overwhelmed. "We
Can't keep a wolf as a pet.
That's illegal, not to mention dangerous." "Not as a pet," Marcus said slowly, an idea forming. "As part of a conservation program, Catherine's been talking about creating a sanctuary for wolves with the ghost wolf's genetic line, a place where they can be studied, protected, and eventually released back into the wild. Your property has the space, the location, and," he looked at Emma, "the right family to oversee it." Rachel and David exchanged glances. "You mean turn our home into a wolf sanctuary?" Rachel asked. "More like a rehabilitation center for wolves who need human help before returning to the wild. It would be official, funded, supported by the university and Fish and Wildlife, and Emma would grow up learning to be a guardian too, just like Frost." Emma's face lit up. "Really? I could help protect wolves like Frost protected me." Marcus knelt beside her. "That's exactly what I'm saying. You and Frost saved each other that day in the cave.
Maybe it's time for that cycle to continue."
The paperwork took months, but by the following spring, the Coleman Wildlife Rehabilitation Center was operational. The first resident was Hope, the white wolf cub who'd shown up on their doorstep. She thrived under Emma's care, growing stronger each day. And true to the pattern, other wolves began appearing. Injured ones, sick ones, ones who needed help. Always at night, always guided by that mysterious wolf network that seemed to know where safety could be found. Marcus visited often, helping train Emma in wolf behavior and safety protocols. She was a natural. At 8 years old, she already understood things about wolves that took most biologists decades to learn. "She's going to be remarkable," Catherine said one day, watching Emma interact with Hope through the sanctuary fence. "That child has a gift." Or maybe, Marcus suggested, she had a teacher who was remarkable enough to recognize another guardian in the making. Winter
Returned to Wyoming. 1 year since the rescue. 1 year since Marcus had followed a white wolf into darkness and found light. He was in his office when the GPS tracker pinged. The ghost wolf was moving, fast, heading directly toward the ranger station. Marcus stepped outside just as the sun was setting. And there she was, standing at the edge of the parking lot, magnificent and wild and impossibly beautiful. She looked older somehow, tired. The white in her fur seemed more pronounced, but her eyes still held that crystalline intelligence. Marcus walked toward her slowly. The wolf didn't move, didn't run. When he was 10 feet away, she sat down, waiting. Marcus sat too, cross-legged in the snow, two beings from different worlds, sharing a moment of perfect understanding. "Thank you," Marcus said softly, "for everything, for showing me that hope still exists in this world, that miracles are real, that we're not alone." The wolf tilted her head, studying him. Then she stood, walked forward until she was close enough to touch. She pressed her nose to Marcus's hand, just as she had the night he'd released her. And Marcus felt it again, that connection, that bone-deep certainty that some bonds transcend species and time and every rational explanation. The wolf stepped back. Her gaze moved past Marcus to the building behind him, where Catherine was watching from the window, then to the road leading toward the Coleman sanctuary, then back to the wilderness that had always been her true home. She howled, clear and strong and eternal. From the forest, answers came. Her pack, her children, her legacy. And then, for the last time, the ghost wolf turned and walked away, not fleeing, not hiding, just returning to where she belonged. Marcus watched until she vanished into the trees. He didn't feel sad. How could he? She'd given him so much, given all of them so much. She'd reminded humanity that wisdom could have fur, that courage could walk on 4 legs, that family wasn't limited by species, that sometimes the wild things could teach civilization lessons it had forgotten. 5 years later, December 2029. Emma Coleman, now 13, stood at the graduation ceremony for the wildlife conservation program she'd helped develop. 43 students had completed the course. 43 young people who would go on to work in wildlife protection, carrying forward the lessons Emma had learned from a white wolf in a dark cave. Hope stood beside her, no longer a cub, but a full-grown white wolf who'd chosen to stay at the sanctuary rather than return to the wild. She wore a special collar that identified her as an ambassador animal, working with Emma to educate people about wolf behavior and conservation. Marcus was in the audience, now serving as Regional Director of Wildlife Services. Catherine sat beside him, her groundbreaking research on wolf cognition having revolutionized the field. The ceremony ended with Emma releasing 5 rehabilitated wolves back into the wild. Each wolf paused at the sanctuary gate, looking back at the girl who'd saved them, before disappearing into the forest. As the crowd dispersed, Emma noticed something, a white shape at the tree line. She walked toward it slowly, Hope following faithfully at her side. The ghost wolf sat waiting. She looked ancient now, her fur silvered, her movements slower, but her eyes still held that impossible intelligence. Beside her sat another wolf, male, dark grey, and between them, curled in the snow, 4 newborn puppies, 3 grey, 1 pure white. The ghost wolf looked at Emma, then at the white puppy. Then she stood, gently picked up the white puppy by the scruff of its neck, and walked forward. She placed the puppy at Emma's feet, stepped back.
and waited. Emma's breath caught. "You want me to take her? To raise her like I raised Hope?" The ghost wolf's tail wagged once. Gentle, deliberate. "Yes." "Why?" Emma whispered. "Why me?" And in that moment, Emma understood something that would define the rest of her life. The ghost wolf wasn't just giving Emma a puppy. She was giving Emma a responsibility, a legacy, a calling. The guardian wolves had protected humans for thousands of years. Now, it was time for humans to protect them in return, to raise them, to cherish them, to ensure that this special bloodline continued. The cycle was completing, turning, evolving, from wolf protecting human to human protecting wolf, equal partners, equal guardians. Emma picked up the tiny white puppy, cradling it against her chest. "I promise," she said, "I'll keep her safe. I'll help her grow strong. And when she's ready, I'll teach her everything you taught me about protecting others." The ghost wolf held Emma's gaze for a long moment. Then she turned to the male wolf and the 3 remaining puppies, her family, her pack. Together, they walked into the forest. Emma watched them go, the tiny puppy warm and squirming against her heart. Marcus appeared beside her, Hope trotting
At his heels.
"What will you name her?" he asked. Emma looked down at the puppy, who'd opened her eyes for the first time. Crystal blue, ancient, knowing, just like her ancestor. "Legacy," Emma said softly, "because that's what she is, what we all are. The continuation of something that started thousands of years ago, something that will continue for thousands more." "As long as people like you keep their promises," Marcus agreed. Emma smiled. "Always, just like Frost taught me." In the distance, a howl rose from the mountains, the ghost wolf's voice singing to the twilight sky. Her children answered, their voices weaving together in harmonies that spoke of family and protection and ancient bonds that would never break. And for the first time since that day in the cave 5 years ago, Emma howled back, her human voice joining the wolves' song, creating something new, something beautiful. The sound of 2 species, once separate, now forever connected. In Emma's arms, the white puppy howled too. Tiny, imperfect, but learning, always learning. Because that's what guardians do. They learn, they grow, they pass on their wisdom to the next generation, and the cycle continues, forever.